Hello YouTube viewers, long time no see. I'm back again to record some matches with green-black Nick Fit. I've already played a couple of matches in a league, but I'll go ahead and do a deck tech first. So this is more or less your traditional Nick Fit deck. You've got Veteran Explorer and Cabal Therapy to form your engine for getting out a lot of basic lands so that you can ramp to your more expensive spells. We are generally abusing the asymmetry and legacy that a lot of decks don't play basic lands, or rather that we play many more than them. So we're going to get more advantage over time than they will out of having the extra mana to use. We'll also be able to leverage the ability to play more powerful spells, since we will actually have more mana, rather than having to rely on the hyper efficiency that a lot of other legacy decks utilize because they run low land counts. So I'll go over the mana base real quick. So since we're only two colors, we have a little bit more flexibility in what we can do with our mana. So running for dual lands, we've got two Bayous, and then we have a Nurturing Peatland as a newer card from Modern Horizons. I guess here we can blow it up that way. So sort of like a Horizon Canopy, but for the green-black version. And then, so that gives us some lands that can tap for both colors. Then we've got 4 forest and 2 swamps as our basic count. And then to flesh out some of the other options, we do have a Dried Arbor that we can get on turn 1 if we want to. Dried Arbor also has other uses sometimes. You can fetch it out with the Verdant Catacombs in response to an edict, or sometimes you can end of turn get it to help pressure planeswalkers and things like that. Then we have our typical 2 towers, the Phyrexian Tower, which helps enable sacrificing Veteran Explorer for an explosive early turn. And we have Vorwath's Stronghold as a way to, in the late game, kind of keep our card flow going by rebuying important creatures like Reclamation Sage and Eternal Witness, or very powerful threats like the Questing Beast and the Hexdrinker. We have a couple utility lands as well because we are running a crop rotation package, as you see here, and in the sideboard we have some crop rotations. So those are going to be able to get us Bojuka Bog so that we can nuke Graveyard if we need to. Caracas so that we can get rid of any troublesome legends that pop up. Notably, Merit Lage and Gristlebrand tend to be problems for Nick Fit decks, so this will help ease that ideally. Then we also, down here at the bottom, we also have a Wasteland, which will help us against the Merit Lage decks, as well as also sometimes we can take out some other kind of utility land that the opponent might be using. And occasionally you can be used if you have it early. If your opponent has a low land keep, it can be used as a little bit of mana denial, but that's not really a focus of this build. We don't have a Ramanop Excavator to really rebuy that a whole bunch. So can be used for that, but it's definitely not plan A or B. Let's get into the discard suite a little bit. So obviously, being Nick Fit, we have Cabal Therapy. This card takes some skill because you have to generally have an idea of what your opponent might be doing. So firing it off early for usually Brainstorm or Force of Will if you're in the blind can be useful, but you might not want to fire this off right away unless you know you're setting up to sacrifice a Veteran Explorer to it on the following turn. We also are supplemented by Thoughtseize, which again is just probably the most powerful spell, and we'd be running more of these if we weren't trying to abuse the synergies between Cabal Therapy and Veteran Explorer. For removal, we're using 2 Abrupt Decay and 2 Assassin's Trophy. The idea here is that I want to have 4 main deck removal spells, but I'm splitting between the Abrupt Decay and the Assassin's Trophy because sometimes there are things with converted mana cost bigger than 3 that are concerning in game 1. Sometimes if we start getting into a late game, a Jace the Mind Sculptor can really hinder what's going on with your development of your plan, because if they start Fate Sealing you, you're not going to be able to recover very easily. Let's see. Then sort of as a sweeper, we have a Pernicious Steed, pretty typical of Nickfit decks. So it's pretty good, especially if we have something like a Liliana the Veil or a Vraska in play. Those are going to stay because Pernicious Steed does not kill Planeswalkers. Although to wit, especially with Oko popping up and with Ren and 6 being around, it is important to remember that Pernicious Steed will not take care of those. Those will end up staying on the battlefield. All right, let's since we mentioned Vraska and Lily, we'll do those next. So Liliana the Veil, classic legacy card. The idea is going to be help remove something problematic like a True Name Nemesis, and it's just going to kind of pressure their hand to slowly drain them of resources, and then at some point we can nuke half their stuff. Vraska is a little bit newer, but is another enabler of ways to sacrifice Veteran Explorer if you have one later on. And sometimes you just end up with a lot of extra lands that you don't need, especially if you've already gotten all of your basics. Prismatic Vista is not going to be useful at all. So these are extra things that can be sacrificed. Or if you have a Marin in play, then it also provides synergy there. It's also another way to more or less abrupt decay something with the -3. And if you ever do get to the emblem, well, good for you. That makes just about anything, even an end of turn Dryad Arbor, all of a sudden becomes very, very lethal. Now, as far as the other things that we can get, we have obviously Green Sun Zenith is sort of the other end of the Nickfit deck, besides the engine and the removal. So the Green Sun Zenith allows us to play sort of a toolbox of things that we can get. So early on, it can obviously get Dryad Arbor and the Veteran Explorer to help you develop your mana. And in the mid to late game, we can get things like Hexdrinker or Tarmogoyf or Questing Beast to really start laying on the damage, as well as for more utility type things, depending on what you're facing, something like Collector Oof or Scavenging Ooze or Reclamation Sage can be very helpful to help remove something that's problematic going on, whether it's graveyard, artifacts that they're trying to use, or artifacts or enchantments that need to be blown up. Some of the other things that we can get, we have a couple of legends. We have Marin of Clan Nel Toth, which, if you are getting into a grindy game, can generate a lot of value. Even if they remove her, if they kill her, if you've gained any experience counters, those are going to stay. And if you can get her back later with, say, like the Eternal Witness or Volrath's Stronghold, you're going to be able to continue to get value from her. And then we also have Titanium, Protector of Argoth, which can recoup some of your lands to help continue developing your mana well into the late game, getting back such things as the Volrath's Stronghold or the Nurturing Peatland to kind of keep the card flow going, as well as it can, if you have Wasteland or unused fetches, you can just very out of nowhere generate a lot of power to close the game out quickly. I'd mentioned Eternal Witness. This is just something that ends up being very, very good to grind through with the Volrath's Stronghold. If you can get that going late game, your opponent's just going to be buried under this ensuing card advantage. And then, speaking of card advantage, we have 3 Sylvan Library as a way to generate more card advantage. We have a lot of shuffle effects, so between those and the Sylvan Library, you can generally see a lot of cards if you can keep this on the table. And the only other thing that I haven't really talked about yet is the Plague Engineer. It's kind of another sweeper in a way. Again, it's just something that if you have lots of things, like if your opponent's got Monastery Mentor, this can kind of nerf that, since you can choose Monk and all the monks won't be around, or it's a first game out to something like Belcher that might have like a bunch of goblins. So it's an option there. Anyway, going into the sideboard, we really, really want to load up against combo decks. So combo decks that use the graveyard, we have all 4 Leyline of the Void, in addition to an extra crop rotation for the Bajuka Bog to really put the nail in that coffin. We have Hymn to Turox to add to our discard package against combo. We have 3 Veil of Summer to add to the one in the main deck to shut down decks that want to try to discard our hand, like Storm and like Depths and like Reanimator, because they want to try to keep us from stopping them. So we just go really ham on them. We have more Abrupt Decays in case there's problematic permanents that we're going to need to answer, especially out of blue decks. Counterbalance can give us a lot of fits, so the Abrupt Decay really helps there. We have some extra sweepers in Toxic Deluge and Plague Engineer as well. Alright, well, that's going to be it for the deck tech, and I hope you look forward to the replays that I will do of the 2 matches I've already played, and then on to the other matches in the league that I will actually give the live commentary on. Alright, thank you for watching. This has been Captain Murphy.